So let's talk about the very latest this morning on the stimulus front. And we're going to talk about historically, has it helped anyone? Where are we? And why is Wall Street this morning super giddy about that? If you look at the futures numbers this morning, they're up. Wall Street is excited this morning. They were down last night. They were hoping, I think, by the end of the night, by the end of close of session yesterday, that we would have seen some sort of a stimulus news. So they go down. And then over the nighttime, as we're waking up, the futures are up. I don't know who they're talking to. They kind of go in this wave. It's been like an undulation over the past few months. And one thing Wall Street, does not like is uncertainty. There are all signs pointing now to a Joe Biden victory, according to Wall Street. The Wall Street betting right now has Joe Biden with a 77% chance of winning the presidency. I don't know if you're a betting person, you want to put your money in that or not, but that's where Wall Street sees it going. It's where Vegas odds betting are right now. President Trump is spending money, or is running out of money, and only spending in certain states. Joe Biden has like 3 times the amount of money and is spending in states that the Trump campaign basically gave up on. That's a bad sign. So you look at the latest polling as well. All Vice President Biden has to do right now is screw it up. I mean, that's why the strategy of him being quiet right now is coming out. Like, just, if he wants to win, just don't screw it up. Don't do something stupid at a debate, which Thursday night, of course, we'll see that next debate. Just keep your mouth shut. It's really their strategy right now. So Wall Street just does not like that uncertainty. Well, who's going to be president? Are we going to see big tax cuts, et cetera? They're fine now about the presidency because I think they've already aligned up and believe that Joe Biden's going to win the presidency. So they're fine. Because nothing much is going to change corporate-wise for them. They just want to know who's going to be president. And the other uncertainty is around the stimulus. Are these companies going to continue to have additional rounds of layoffs? Will consumer spending be there, et cetera? So Wall Street overnight seeing these numbers and getting excited about the potential for a stimulus coming within the next few hours. So the very latest on this front comes from Drew Hamill, who is the is Nancy Pelosi's speaker, and said the speaker and Steven Mnuchin spoke at 3 o'clock today for approximately 53 minutes. In this call, they continue to narrow the differences. The speaker has tasked committee chairs to reconcile differences with their GOP counterparts in key areas. The speaker continues to hope that by the end of the day Tuesday, we will have clarity on whether we will be able to pass a bill before the election. The two principals will speak again tomorrow, and staff will continue to work around the clock. So that is good news. That is good news that they are continuing to work right now, and they are going to be speaking shortly, actually. In the next few hours, they are going to be speaking. And today's the day. Nancy Pelosi set that artificial 48-hour deadline. It ends this afternoon. And apparently they are close. They are close on some of this language. There are a few little sticking points left, which is really around some of the coronavirus language. They're still narrowing that down. It doesn't appear, at least, that they're wide apart. There are some sources saying that they were on a conference call yesterday with Nancy Pelosi on the Democratic side, and there are still some caverns they have to fill, but they are in belief that they will get this done. Now, just remember that this is an artificial timeline set by Nancy Pelosi to get this done before the election. If it's not done before the election, all sides agree, and Wall Street seems to agree, and a number of Wall Street sources yesterday saying, our forecasts, our predictions based on our sourcing inside the White House and Congress is that there will be a massive stimulus coming. Now, whether or not it comes before Election Day, that's up in the air. But that there will be some kind of massive stimulus coming. And again, it might not come until June or January. Let's be frank here. Let's play this out a little bit. There will be a stimulus at some point. Just when, we don't know. Because things are getting worse right now in our economy, not better. All signs are pointing to worse, not better. So if Joe Biden wins, I think this is an accurate assessment. I saw this from Jeff Stein last night, basically saying that here's one scenario that I think is going to play out if we don't get a stimulus in the next 24 hours that we can sign off on before Election Day. That President Trump, if he loses, will be less inclined to really do anything, not wanting to work with anybody. I mean, can you imagine President Trump being conciliatory after Election Day if he loses? And he's going to want to work on any kind of a stimulus package? Doubtful. So therefore, this thing might not get pushed until maybe January, until Vice President Biden gets into office, if that happens. Now, if President Trump wins, he'd be buoyed to maybe get something done. Now he's got 4 more years. He doesn't care what you think. He'll do whatever he wants. There's that. But all signs seem to be pointing to, if President Trump loses this, he's not going to be wanting to do anything. He's not going to want to come together on a bipartisan level and try to get something done after he gets his clock cleaned. He's not. He's a fairly vengeful person, as I think we've known, right? We've seen that. Oh, you just beat me? Sure, I'll shake your hand. No, that's not how he operates. So let's have fingers crossed today that Pelosi and Mnuchin are able to fill these gaps this afternoon on this sort of final phone call at the end of the sort of artificial 24-hour deadline set by Nancy Pelosi. But she's onto something too, because if we work back from Election Day, 14 days, to get a bill drawn up, to have everyone come back to Washington who's currently campaigning for themselves in re-election, have all of them come back to Washington, put it up for a vote, then go through the Senate, have it come out of committee in the Senate, then have a vote in the Senate, and then get handed off to President Trump, who's also campaigning, and have a signature signed before Election Day. Could happen. It has to happen, though, today or tomorrow, within the next 24 hours to get this done. So that's that. But let's look a little historically here now at whether or not this stimulus would actually even help anybody. Will anyone actually be helped by a broader stimulus? And we have history to look at here. When you look at President Obama's stimulus, there's 9 different studies that I poured through over the past few days. In 2008, 2009, you'll recall, of course, President Obama elected during that, catastrophe in the fall of that year. Remember, John McCain was canceling or suspending his campaign to go back to Washington to try to help with the economic catastrophe that unfolded. Obama at the time, senator, was saying, I'm going to keep campaigning because I want to win this election, and he did. Then, of course, George W. Bush is a lame duck at the time and dealing with this economic catastrophe in the housing crisis. What does he do? Basically, they kind of put together a plan that President Obama agrees on in this transition period to pass this stimulus. In the Treasury Department, they believe that this stimulus would work, and they pass this stimulus kind of right away after President Obama becomes president. And there were really, and George W. Bush also had his stimulus in there. So there was kind of both of these. Did they actually work? Well, according to 9 different studies, yes. Some of it didn't, but a lot of it did. It turns out that it helped stave off unemployment. It helped the unemployment issue. Could have been much worse. And then it also had broader spillover into the broader economy. So other sectors of the economy were also helped. Well, this time it's been even bigger. And as we know, looking back historically at this data now, just over the past few months, since March, we know conclusively that the first stimulus helped. I mean, how many people watching right now were helped by that stimulus? A bipartisan stimulus, $1,200 in a stimulus payment, plus unemployment benefits, plus pandemic unemployment assistance if you needed that. There were a bunch of things put in place that actually helped. And looking at some of the data, looking at the Davis study, the stimulus checks to those with little cash in the bank resulted in 44.5% of the check going back into the economy within 10 days, which is exactly what they'd hoped would happen. And you can see the price, the income difference here. Like if you make more than $100,000, people put that into savings. So you can see the people at the lower economic spectrum here spent it. They spent it on food, household items, medical care. They were not wasting this money. It was going right back into the economy for the things that they needed the most: food, household items, bills, and rent. So yes, there is no question as to whether or not the stimulus worked. It did. 2008 and 2009, it did on a much smaller scale because it was a much smaller stimulus. This time, it's worked even more. There's broad consensus that we should pass another stimulus and get this money into the economy because this is the area that we're getting crushed in right now. It's GDP. And our federal government is not able to take in taxes to foot the bill for all of this money that's bailing out for big corporations. So if they can get more money into the hands of the American people, that will help boost the economy, get this money cycling back into the system again, and help us to at least alleviate some of this revenue pain that the federal government is experiencing right now. Because if you can see this is what we showed you yesterday, the federal debt, and just look at how much money is being spent, how much printing of money is happening. Here's 2008, 2009, and how much money is being spent or printed. And then just look at it skyrocketing here. Skyrocketing in the past few months. So it's not sustainable to be able to print this amount of money, but to not also have the American people be able to get some of this money so that it goes back into the economy in the form of a tax basis. You know, when you go to the store and buy something, guess what? Taxes. Well, the federal government is not bringing in taxes right now. It's being slammed. And this is what's happening in our broader economy. So the Federal Reserve is being asked about this federal digital currency. Federal Reserve Chief Jerome Powell speaking yesterday at the IMF about the FedNow digital currency. A lot of you have been asking, I see right now asking this morning, and if you're interested in this question, fire it up here in the chat. Will we move to a cashless society? I think it's inevitable. And I think all of the pieces are being put in place for a cashless society. We're seeing it now, contactless payments, digital wallets, all of the major banks moving to digital wallets. In Europe, they've got, MBWay? The people just pay babysitters on MBWay. Canada, look at Canada. Everything is contactless. People don't carry cash. How many Canadians do we have watching today? Most Canadians I know, everything is set up with digital passport. The subway, everything, just tap and go, tap and go. No one carries cash. We're on the move. If you are new to our channel, please subscribe to the channel and smash that like button. It really helps us get our message out to a broader audience. YouTube says, they look at that. They say, hey, if you gave me a thumbs up, we're going to share you more. And I think a lot of people could really use this financial education right now. It's the only way we can dig ourselves out of this hole. So thank you for liking and subscribing to the channel.